I thought you were saying... Okay.
No, sorry.
Right, let's get started. Good evening to everybody, members and other councillors and officer. Good evening, and thank you very much for turning up tonight. It's much appreciated. Fire procedure. I think everybody here is aware of the fire procedure, are they not? So we're not expecting a fire alarm, but please vacate the offices via the stairs opposite the lifts in the foyer, and do not use the lifts. I think that's fair to say. Mobile phones, could everyone present please ensure their phone is switched off? Filming is, nobody's going to film tonight, so I assume no. Anyone speaking under Council Procedure Rule 21?
If I don't know, but I'll just indicate.
Oh, shove up, and yeah, fine. Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be one of those. It's going to be one of those evenings. Okay. Yeah. Okay. In that case, we go straight on to agenda item 1, which is apologies for absence. I have a list here. Have you any other further to the ones I'm going to call out? I've received apologies from Councillor Crowe-Brown, Councillor John Quittenden, and Councillors Emma Dawson, Harry Scobie, Mike Garner, for whom Councillor Munns is substituting, and Councillor Constantine. Have you any other apologies?
Yeah, Councillor Davis also sends his apologies.
Councillor Davis. Okay. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 2. Are there any declarations of interest? No. Agenda item 3. Do members agree that the minutes of the Joint Transportation Board meeting held on the 21st of March 2024 be approved and signed as a correct record? In which case, could I have a proposer? Councillor Matterface. And seconder? That's right. Members agreed? Yep. Agreed. Yes. Thank you. Agenda item 4 is the Highways Works Programme. You've all got copies of this. This is for information only. Have any members got any questions or comments on the report? No? Nothing at all? In which case are we happy to note the report? Agreed? Good. Agenda item 5 is the parking financial position 23-24. And I think I'd like to say that thank you very much for producing this report, because it's very useful to have. It gives us a much better idea of what's going on. And I noted the offer of an annual report, which I think would be very useful for JTB. Thank you. This one, Penny, are you going to introduce this? Thank you.
I'm more than happy to introduce it, and yes, definitely do an annual one for you. So it'll be probably the June meeting every year, because we'll have closed off the year before. So this is a summary of the position that we closed off the financial year at the end of March 24. I won't repeat everything that's in the report, but as you're all aware, it has been a particularly difficult year, or 2 years, for staff absences within the team, not just around the civil enforcement recruitment, but we've had a number of other key members of staff off. So that has reflected in our overall financial position, which is significantly reduced from pre-COVID times. However, we have maintained a lot of our finances on the previous year, and we've also increased some of our penalty charge income, which I think is tantamount to the hard work that the team have been doing, considering they have had so many difficulties in recruitment. I'm happy to take any questions, and yeah, pretty much the information is all there for you.
Thank you, Penny. Are there any questions from members? Councillor Bride.
Yeah, thank you, Penny, for the report. Just out of interest, do we have any idea why there are fewer seasonal and residential permits this year? Thank you.
No, we don't. We haven't done any research into it. I wouldn't like to speculate as to why. We have kept them. The fees were the same for last financial year, so in terms of a monetary side of things, I don't think it's necessarily that side of it in terms of what we charge, but it's something we could look into.
Thank you.
I've got a question actually about off-street parking. Are there any off-street are there any, sorry, not on-street car parks that are rarely used? Is there any study or report on the utilisation of your car parks?
So we have the figures for so our on-street parking, get it the right way around. We don't have a report, but we do have utilisation figures for all of our sites, so we know which are our busiest and which aren't in terms of payments.
I think my question, are there any that are absolutely not underutilised?
I wouldn't say absolutely underutilised, no.
Thank you. Councillor Bright.
Yep, thank you. And also, just out of interest, the other income, I was wondering what that is, and obviously aware that there was a lot of filming on Viking Bay, and I know that they did sort of take over those car parks. Is that the kind of income? Yeah, thank you.
I will, for the record, reply using the microphone. Yes, it is.
Thank you. That's a good income to have because it's not just the parking, it's everything else that goes with it. And I think both KCC and yourselves are very aware of the benefits of this because it also adds to the visitors as soon as they see something on film. Thank you very much. If there are no other questions, this report is for information only. Oh, Councillor Munns.
I was just looking at the on-street parking and the penalty charge notices. Big jump from 22 to 23 to 23 to 24. I mean, like 5 times, doing my basic maths. What's the reason for that?
So due to our reduced numbers, we have been focusing on street parking problems because that's where it creates the most problems for our residents. So we have been doing the double yellow line in way more concentrated areas. So that's why.
Happy with that? Okay. In that case, it's for information only. Are you happy to note the report?
Yes.
Thank you very much. And we go on to agenda item 6, civil enforcement update, which is also Penny.
I feel like this is going to be all of me for the next 4 items, so apologies. You've just got me to listen to this evening. So this was a request from the Vice Chair of the Board just for an update on where we are around the enforcement work and how our civil enforcement team work. So their role is both educational and enforcement because the best way to stop people doing things that they shouldn't be is trying to explain to them why what they're doing is causing a problem. So that's what we try to work with when we find people parking in restricted areas, is what the impact will be. And then obviously we use the enforcement as the stick. They do work 7 days a week and they work from early morning right through to late in the evening. It is restricted to traffic enforcement of the traffic regulation orders. So that means that they can enforce double yellow lines, single yellow lines, parking bay infringements and failure to pay and display, but they cannot enforce obstruction of the highway, driveways or pavement parking, as they're all enforced by the police. And I think that's quite a key difference. We are limited in what we can do, and we also don't enforce moving traffic offences. KCC do those. So our full establishment is 11.5 full-time equivalent officers, and for most of the last year we had 3 to 5 officers. But despite that inconsistency, as Councillor Munns has pointed out, we have seen a number of penalty charge notices issued. The majority are for on-street infringements, such as double yellow lines. Out of the 13,006, 9,704 were paid within the 14 days discount or paid in full if they didn't pay them before. 779 were cancelled or written off, and 1,057 were sent to the bailiffs for recovery. Those of you that are good with maths will work out that that does not equate to 13,006, and that's because they span more than one financial year. So cases can go on for 18 months to 2 years, so they don't always marry up in terms of the figures. But it just gives you an idea of what we dealt with in the year. If you are in the receipt of a penalty charge notice, you have the option to appeal to the Traffic Penalty Tribunal. We had 7 cases last year that were taken there. 2 were accepted by the tribunal, 2 were dismissed, which means that basically they thought that there wasn't a case to answer, and 3 we didn't contest, so we went for early payment with them. So, as I'm sure you're all aware, as we talk about this on quite a lot of meetings, we have undertaken a number of things over the last year to try and retain and attract new civil enforcement officers. We've increased the market supplement that we introduced last year, and this has been successful. We have also used a recruiting agency, which has helped massively as well. We saw 1 officer join in May. We have 2 that joined us this week, the 3rd, this week. And we have 1 joining us later in June, which will bring us up to 7 officers. At the moment, we've stopped with the recruitment drive with the agency because of the time it takes to train them up. We only have, obviously, 3 officers that are fully qualified, so they're having to then train up the 4 new ones, so we just need a little bit of a break in that. But we will be advertising back on our website by the end of this month, so we'll then open that up back to the agency as well when we get back. The agency can provide people quite quickly, so we just kind of put a halt to that for now.
Thank you very much.
That's
Councillor
okay.
Matterface, you had a question.
I'm just looking at your report, Penny. You said that 779 were cancelled or written off. Could you tell me why that would be? I mean, obviously there were specific circumstances there, but it'd be useful to know, in case somebody raises it, what circumstances would lead you to cancel it or to write it off.
So there are a number of different things. We've had cloned vehicles, so it's not the responsibility of the person. We've had, some have been technical issues, so we issue the penalty notice before the information has gone through the system. So when we then look at it, they did buy a ticket at the same, or 2 minutes before we were issuing. Some of them are drive-aways or issued in error, so sometimes, not very many of them, but sometimes you get the wrong code that goes in, so that's an officer error. There's all sorts of different reasons why we end up having to write some of them off.
Nevertheless, considering how few staff you had, that's quite surprising. They didn't do too badly at all. Any other questions? Councillor Munns.
So you've got 7 at the end of this month, and is that 11 that you're going to aim to get in total?
So I'm aiming for 9 at the moment because of the extra finances we're paying. But yeah, eventually it will be 11 and a half. If I'm honest, I'm just pleased we've got more than 3.
Can I just ask, is it only money or is it actually the job?
It's a combination of both. So we have lost a number of new starters over the last year and prior to that due to money. So they have gone to places where the money is better, like Manston. So it's a similar job, enforcement based, but the money is better, yeah. So that's the difficulty with it.
Yeah, the reason I ask is because a lot of the people doing the lollipop schools, road safety, they have difficulty, but it's actually not the money as much as the confrontation that they have to face, and not everybody wants that sort of hassle. And that's why I asked, because it obviously is a bit confrontational. Okay.
I think if I can come back, sorry, I think post-COVID that probably was a lot of the issue. I think people had got used to spending time on their own, but I think we're well past that now, and people are starting to come back into the fold of doing those sorts of jobs.
Councillor Matterface.
Could I just ask, is there any kind of progression? If somebody comes in to do the day-to-day work that we see, is there any kind of seniority? Can they climb? Can they move to other areas? Okay.
So we have team leader posts that we can fill going forward. We've had, in the past, people have moved into the office-based jobs in parking. We've also had members of staff. It's a bit of a springboard, the job, because it gets you into the council and then you find other things that are happening. So we've had some officers go to departments like housing for antisocial behaviour officers and things like that. So yeah, it does act as a springboard. We get quite a lot of people in and then they go off and do other things.
When you advertise these jobs, is there any, because I haven't seen an advert, so I'm just guessing, is there any indication in the advertisement there are opportunities for progression? So people think, well, actually, I could take that job at £13 an hour for now, but there would be steps I could climb the ladder?
We do, but we could probably do more to make it more obvious.
Councillor Bry.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just wondering how the enforcement officers are deployed. Are there different officers for different towns, or do they just go all over the place? Thank you.
So they go all over the place. It's for their protection more than anything. So we are very cagey, for want of a better word, of giving out the exact routes they use because for their safety. So they don't patrol the same town 2 days in a row. They have set beats that they go round and we split them out so that all of our main areas are covered, and then we can look at deployment in different places. So for example, on a late shift, they come back after 6 o'clock, they work together in pairs, and they will go out and look at things like the motorhome parking, which is only after 6 o'clock, and then they'll go to specific areas and do areas where you might have an event happening, so there's people parking on double yellow lines in that area and causing problems, like football clubs and things like that. So they focus on different things.
Okay. Any more questions? Councillor Munns.
Can you request, as you're getting more staff, can you request certain situations, an officer to visit a particular area where you'll know that you're having particular parking issues? Not everyone's going to look at me and say, yeah, Botany Bay, but actually there's a particular pub which is becoming quite problematic because just parking double yellow lines and causing dangerous obstructions at the junction.
I think you could add Stone Road to that.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a list of hotspot areas that they do focus on where we know we have issues. So if people raise complaints with us about certain areas like a pub or Botany Bay or Gladstone, then yeah, it goes on our hotspot list and they will focus there for a short period of time. St Peter's is another one where we have some hotspot areas. There's lots, but yeah, do.
And how do I rate it? I'll just email you, Penny? Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? No? In which case, are we happy to note this report?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Then we go on to agenda item 7, which is the traffic regulation order consultation update. Penny.
This would be a nice quick one. So at the last meeting, I brought forward a list of proposals for double yellow lines, and this is just an update to say that we haven't gone out to consultation yet, but we're hoping that I think it was the end of July, I'm hoping to get mid-July, sorry, to go live with that consultation. So it's just a very simple update on that one.
Thank you. Councillor Matterface?
Yes, considering one of them is one that I started off, could you tell me what format the consultation, will the ward councillors be notified? Will there be notices as for planning on, and then do we just respond? There's a form to fill in. If you would just let me know, please.
Yeah,
thank you.
So there will be notices, it will be advertised in our main reception, and there'll be notices on the roads, and then there's an email address to put
That's
your views and comments into.
My point would be if we didn't know it was happening, we can't tell the people who would be particularly concerned that this is actually happening, so that's good.
Yeah, we will do. And there's also, it goes in the local paper as well. We have to do that statutorily.
Any other questions? Councillor Bright.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, obviously Penny and I have been working quite closely together for the last few weeks as I've come into post. One of the things I'm keen to explore as we go forward is when we have double yellow lines, is maybe having better communication on what the actual rules are. Because actually, I think we had a meeting on Monday and I learned something about double yellow lines that I didn't actually know, and I've been driving for 30 years. So I think there's a general education job we need to be doing better as a council. So I think, and this will come out of the parking review, I think. So there will be, it's not just about stick, there's going to be not carrot necessarily, because it's not rewarding, but there does need to be some education and some clear communication to members of the public and to visitors that will also hopefully help reduce antisocial parking.
I think that's quite useful. Highways do a highways pack for them, certainly for the councillors, and it covers just about everything that they provide. It gives a good idea of the prices, which is often a reality check for a lot of people that want 4 pedestrian crossings. But it's good to have, and an awful lot of confusion is there, particularly for people who've come to the area who are used to one council and then suddenly find there's 3. They don't know who does everything, and they certainly don't know when it comes to the double yellow lines and the parking and this. They don't know which council. It's the council, but they don't know. And I think it would be very useful actually to have something, whether it's online or whatever, but that stipulates who's responsible, who paints them, who controls them, enforces them, and that sort of thing. Because recently there was a picture of a car literally on the parade at Broadstairs by Chandos Square. I'm sure you saw it on Facebook. I'd never seen a car parked there by the post box. Never. Mm-hmm. I can't imagine why anyone would think that was a permissible. I do think that people are parking everywhere, just anywhere sometimes. So, yeah.
So that picture actually prompted me to ask the question that I asked Penny on Monday, which was, why don't we have double red lines? But they're a moving traffic offence in London, and that would be a police thing. So this is when I discovered that if you've got horizontal yellow lines up onto the curb, there's no stopping at all. And I think it's getting residents and visitors to understand the actual rules about, not just if you see double yellow lines, I can leave the car there for 5 minutes. That's not acceptable. So I think we just need to be educating as much as we do, as much as we are enforcing, because that's going to be a far more effective way of really bringing the numbers down, and making everyone's life a little bit more convenient than just fining people, because you can stick a parking ticket on a car and the car doesn't just disappear, it's still sitting there until whenever people get back.
Thank you for that, Councillor Bright. Any more questions? No? In which case, we're asked to note this report. Happy to note it. Thank you. Agenda item 8, parking review update.
It's me again.
Guess what? It's Penny.
So I was hoping that by this meeting I'd be able to come and give you a timeline of where we would be in terms of the second part of the consultation, and then a general election was announced, so we are ever so slightly put back. So we're just working with the consultants on how we can realign the programme that we had worked for the next 2 months and when that's going to work, because obviously we're not their only client, so we're just realigning that at the moment. However, we did a members briefing on Tuesday night with an update of where we are. We've done the first phase of the initial engagement with everybody, and we had over 2,000 responses, which is really good, and positive responses. It wasn't all a negative kind of complaint. It was some really good ideas came out of people's visits to speak to them, and through the online feedback and the paper feedback. So that was, I think, really encouraging. I found that really encouraging. So what the consultants have done is produced sort of an overarching viewpoint of on-street parking and off-street parking, and then some protocols underneath that we need to achieve to move things forward. So the next stage is that they'll go out and talk about those. They've got 4 areas under each that we need to focus on, and then how we can achieve that. So the next stage is to go out and meet the public, talk about what is important to them, which ones of those they'd like to see brought forward, and I'm guessing, I don't know exactly, but sort of a rating of which ones they would prefer. Because for some people, residence parking is going to be way up there, and for others, they're not going to want it at all. So it's kind of getting that balance. So there's lots of ideas, and there'll be lots of work to bring forward. But the strategy is, they look for a 20-year strategy. So there'll be quick wins, short term. So quick is under 12. Short term, I think, was 12 to 18, 12 to 2 maybe. Then medium term, and then long term was over 5 years. And I think the thing that was made quite clear, and is something that I've always said right from the start, but it's nice to hear it from the consultant as well, that you have a strategy for 20 years, but it's not a strategy that just arrives and sits on the shelf and doesn't get looked at for 20 years. It's a moving feast, and the idea is that you have all of that suite of things in there because you never know if you might want to use one. So, like, building new car parks was something that was talked about. It won't necessarily be something that we're going to be doing in the next 5 years, but we never know when we might need to use that, so it kind of sits in the background. So there's lots of policies that will come out of it, and now, yeah, hopefully in the summer we'll be going back out to have those meetings, and there'll be engagement meetings across the district in multiple venues, so that everybody gets an opportunity to attend. So there'll be some in the villages and some in the centres. So yeah, there'll be, once I've got the list and we're able to publish it, obviously we'll let you know. But at the moment we're a bit ham-tried by the election.
Any questions at all? Councillor Mums.
Excuse my ignorance, but why is the general election slowing it down?
Because it's very political, so we can't look at consultations and things like that on anything that could be used politically and that is a big ticket item.
In fact, that there are various rules for pre-election murders, and things like meetings can be very difficult, particularly if you've got a meeting that's planned. And I mean, this is not one of those cases. But you have a meeting, you are not able to make political statements.
Or political decisions.
Or political decisions. So, you know, it limits pretty much all business. And when it comes quickly like this and isn't expected this quickly, it makes it very difficult because it means everything has to be reshuffled. It means that as councillors as well, you have to be very careful what you put on media, and what you say generally. One of the rules of the game, I'm afraid. Thank you very much, Penny. Are there any questions? Oh, yes.
So just on the back of that, I think that probably the easiest way to describe it is business as usual carries on. Anything that's not business as usual stops in that pre-election period.
And I get that whole thing. I didn't think that the consultation would be that political, but perhaps it does fall into that category.
Come in here.
Yeah, the only thing I would just add, and it would be almost to manage expectations of the review in terms of, because this came up a lot in the members' briefing, which is that this is a strategy, not a we are going to do this. And actually there were probably about 10 questions in a row that, what about that? And the answer every single time in the briefing was, yeah, this is the strategy. We're not talking about the action yet. So actually, one of the things that Penny has agreed to do is to show how that strategy will turn into action. Because I think that's really important that people understand. So when we publish that strategy, you're going to look to show what it actually means in terms of what it will mean on the street, or off the street even.
Thank you. It's managing expectations as well.
Yeah, but it's an amazing bit of work. It is actually a really strong piece of work so far.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments?
No?
I'm sorry?
So I thought you went.
No, I was just agreeing with, I wasn't actually putting my hand up.
Miss
to ask. Oh,
Councillor
Miss
Munns.
Sorry, I missed a members' briefing Tuesday, but we've talked about the enforcement and potential wheel clamping or some stronger enforcement. Is that something that's still being considered or as part of the strategy? And you talked about the double yellow lines and that, where people just ignore them.
So I'll say that is something that the strategy will be the overarching thing, and things like that will come out underneath it.
Anyone else? No? In which case, thank you for your update. It's very interesting, and thank you also, Christian, for your input as well, because that's quite good to hear. In which case, the meeting is concluded, and 7:30. Sorry? Yep. So thank you very much, and thank you very much for attending tonight. Thank you.